Good evening, everyone. You're in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Tuesday, June the 6th, 2017. Good to have you all here for our first of two shows this week. Our first show in a little over 2 weeks. We have some stuff to get to. A lot's happened in 2 weeks, and obviously there was an issue um, before our scheduled hiatus. We were supposed to have one more show. I have to issue an apology. I messed up pretty badly before I went on my little vacation here. So I have to kind of address that. And we have a lot of stuff to get through. So as always, before we get going, let me remind you all the ways in which you can interact and contribute to our show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. And please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just make sure that you like our fan page once you find it. Once you're on, to search for In the Spotlight 411. And once you're on our fan page, make sure you like it once you find it. Once you're on it. All right. So really quickly, though, some of the things that have happened in the last couple of weeks have not been good. There's been some tragedy of the last couple of weeks. And off the top of the show tonight, I want to make sure that we note that because it's obviously far more important than anything we will discuss here tonight. And obviously, there was a tragedy in Manchester a couple weeks ago, and of course, then in London over this weekend in Kabul. So we want to obviously give our condolences to those who have had family, friends, and loved ones who lost their lives. And to those that have lost their life, may they rest in peace. And again, our condolences to their family, friends, and loved ones, to all those affected by these tragedies over the last couple of weeks. Our thoughts and prayers are with you, and and hopefully, again, these, we talked about this a lot last year, but hopefully the violence and these horrible things will stop happening. I mean, I know that seems like a pipe dream to some people, but you just hope that at some point this kind of stuff just stops happening, because it's just, you just want it to stop. I mean, not even at some point, you just want it to stop in general. It's just, enough's enough, and it's horrible to keep hearing about. So, let's hope and pray for peace and an end to this kind of violence that's been going on. And again, our thoughts and condolences go out to all those impacted by these horrific tragedies. So I want to note that off the top. And then I also wanted to note off the top, as I mentioned, I have to issue an apology because you all recall last show was on May 18th. And on May 18th, I mentioned, and even the show before that, I had mentioned that we would do a show the following week, which was the week of the 22nd. I said that we weren't going to do a show on that Tuesday night. So we weren't going to do a show on Tuesday at all. That's what I think I said. And I mentioned that we would do either a daytime show on Monday or a daytime show on Wednesday. Obviously, Monday came and went, and I told you all that it would probably be on Wednesday. Well, Wednesday came and went, and here, and let me explain to you all what happened here. Obviously, Monday I couldn't do, so that left me with Wednesday, and Wednesday ended up being much busier and more hectic than I would have ever anticipated. And that's not an excuse. If I'm going to say I'm going to do it, I should have done it. And I've been busy before, and I found a way to fit it in. I just couldn't find a way to fit it in. I really couldn't. I tried everything. And then I went to publish. I even had the post ready to tell people that we weren't going to have a show and that we just pick up. Unfortunately, we weren't going to have a show, and we'll have a show when I got back from my vacation, and, that would be that. Well, I went to post. It never posted. I've been having issues with my phone and my memory, and whenever I don't finish a post, it gets lost and everything. So, I had a lot of phone issues with emails and posting and stuff like that over the last couple of weeks. I thought it had posted. I didn't become aware that it hadn't until probably the end of my vacation last week. And at that point, I'm like, I'd rather just address this on the air and not, in another Facebook post or something. I'd rather just address it on the air. I think it'd be better that way. So, so because of that, I said, you know what, let's just leave it alone. and I'll address it when we have our first show back. From the hiatus. So, my apologies to all those that were waiting for that show and it never happened. And most of you figured it out. And I'm usually better about that, letting you all know what's going on and and all that. So you all know if something had to, and I know people even got worried about me and everything. And I hate that happened, that people were worried. So my apologies to all of you on that. It was unprofessional, even though, again, I thought it had the information had posted. I should have went back and checked. I never did. So that's my mistake. So my apologies to all of our fans out there that were looking for a show that never happened, and to those that worried, and for not getting the information out to you about what had happened and why, and why. So I think that's the second time in the last year that I've done that, and for the first 5 or so years we've been doing the show, it never happened. I was always more about keeping you all informed, and I feel really bad about that. So I do apologize for that mess up there. So don't worry. From now on, I don't anticipate any mess ups with that. On a positive note, we're on the air on time tonight. For the first time, and I don't know how long, there was no problems. I've been told the problems have been cleared up. So that's very good news. That's one thing off the list. So, before we went on a real break, I said it was starting to, it was starting to wear on us a little bit. So, I'm glad to see that we are back on and on time and everything's working here tonight. So, a couple of things off the top, as I mentioned, tonight will be our usual sports wrestling show. We'll talk some NBA finals. We'll wrap up our NBA playoff. We'll kind of talk about some of the NBA stuff that we didn't talk about, the Western Conference Finals, the Eastern Conference Finals. We're not going to talk NBA that much because there ain't a lot to talk about. It's been a horrible playoffs. It really has, but we'll talk about it. A couple other sports things. I didn't put everything in the show description. I'm getting in the habit of kind of like, I'm trying to shorthand it a little bit because, I just feel like people don't want to read a lot. So, be a couple of things we'll talk about. Tiger Woods and what happened with him. I didn't put it in the show description, but we'll talk about it. A couple of baseball things, and then we'll leave it at that. And we'll even do a little NHL tonight because that's becoming a pretty good series there. So we'll do a little bit with that. And then we are going to jump into wrestling, and we'll do some stuff with Extreme Rules and the fallout from that, SmackDown, Raw. And that'll be the show tonight. That's all we're going to really do. Thursday, entertainment. We got a lot to talk about there. There's some entertainment news we're going to talk about. We'll talk about some of the, we obviously have some TV show highlights from the last couple of weeks. We'll do that in the Spotlight TV highlights of the week. And then, of course, we got some box office stuff. I wanted to talk about, I feel bad because I never got the chance to set up the Memorial Day box office before it happened. That's always a big box office weekend. But, hey, it is what it is. We all, like I said at the top, I'm sorry about that. So, but it is what it is, and we'll talk about it. What happened Memorial Day weekend, what happened last weekend with Wonder Woman. We got a lot of things to talk about there, so we will do that on Thursday, and maybe throw in a couple other things as well on Thursday. Next week there will be 2 shows, Tuesday and Thursday next week. Show will probably be a little later because I do have to work my other job next week, but it won't be like, hopefully it'll be on like my will later, maybe like 15 minutes or something, not like a big deal. And I don't anticipate doing anything special next week. The only special things we're going to be doing this month, obviously we're approaching the time of year and we start the process for the TV awards. That will happen later in the month for those that are wondering. NBA draft, we'll do a preview show for that later on in the month as well. As we always do, we'll preview the draft, and then post-draft, we'll do some analysis there. I also mentioned this before we went on our break. Or I hinted at it. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I probably hinted at it, to be honest. And some of you picked up on it, so I guess maybe I didn't say it quite clearly, but I probably at least hinted at it. Are going to be kind of, and we do this every summer anyway. Like we usually have a 2-week hiatus in August, and usually 4th of July week we cut down. But one of the things we're going to be doing this summer, for the bulk of the summer, is that we're going to be probably dropping down to 1 show a week for the summer. There might be maybe a week or two here and there, probably during a wrestling pay-per-view week where we don't do that because it's too hard to fit everything into one show. But for the most part this summer, we'll probably be dropping down to one show, probably starting the week of the 18th, I think. I have to check on the dates one more time to see what I'm going to do and play around. If not, maybe we'll start after 4th of July. I don't know. I'll let you all know when we officially start that. It'll kind of be like a lighter summer. Rather than constantly tell you all, oh, yeah, we're just soccer, I'd rather tell you all ahead of time, that we're going to be doing one show instead of be like, okay, this week we're going to do one show and this week, that way you all kind of have an idea and then we'll get back on track in September. And it also allows us a little bit more time because one of the things I want to do out this summer is kind of retool a couple things and mess around. Creatively, I want to mess around for a couple things. So we'll see what that when you drop down a show, it kind of helps out with that. So I'll let you all know more on when we start that and such in the coming weeks here. It's not going to be this week. It's not next week. It's a couple weeks away at the bare minimum. So I'll let you all know as we get closer, and I'll let you all know when it's going to start. So as we wait for Mike's probably like, wow, they're on time tonight. So that's why he's not here. But at least they afforded me the opportunity to get through all this. So for those wondering, my vacation was good. Came back to some pretty nasty weather here, but vacation was good. You probably can't tell from the screen, but I'm very well tanned, so it's good. A lot of you asked, and thank you for that. So like I said, we do have some things to talk about. I'm not going to stall and create dead air here because that's not cool. Nobody likes dead air. Dead air is bad. So I'm going to start going into some things here, some things that I know Mike would not talk about because, and that way we get some things done while he's not around and we don't waste time. So really quickly, let me do, obviously the NBA and the Tiger Woods stuff and that's a bigger deal, but I'm going to throw out some baseball here to start off because that's something Mike does not like talking about. So it makes sense to bring it up. You get into that time of year now in Major League Baseball where, you're going to start to look at the standings and wonder who's for real and who isn't for real. And is, we're getting to that point now. Now, once you get out of the All-Star break, that's when you truly, look at the records, go, okay, let's see, who's in it, trade deadline, all that stuff. Right now is when you start to kind of look at it. You look at it a little bit and you go, okay, who's had a surprise start? Or, you start paying attention to it, but you start paying attention from a standpoint of, okay, who's off to a surprise start? Let's keep an eye on these teams and see where they end up come July. And that's really what you look at with these teams. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where you're at with some of these standings. And I don't want to go through all the standings. Obviously, there's been some surprises. Milwaukee, the Yankees. There's been a couple of surprises, but it is still early yet, and you wait and see where you're at. And usually you wait until after the All-Star break, and then you kind of see where you're at. And I, there hasn't been a whole lot going on in baseball. Thankfully, mostly everything's been happening on the field. There hasn't been too much off the field stuff. As has been the case over the last couple of years, and a lot of you had asked me about this, and that is the idea that of pitching and the way things are going, and more you're headed towards. And obviously, the bullpens have become such a big part of the game over the last couple of years, and we all know that. But bullpens have become such a big part of the game now. But it's becoming more and more obvious that this is not going to go away. That the idea of the starting pitcher going beyond 5 or 6 innings is becoming a rarity, more so each and every season. And that's something that a lot of you have asked me about over these last couple of weeks. And it's becoming a theme of the season. The last couple of years, it was, well, will the offense come back? And the offenses have come back. Offense is up, and it's made the game better. You got a lot of great young players, but it's helped make the game better. We've kind of gone through that transition out of the steroid era into players that, are making the game exciting again. I think a lot of teams and sabermetrics and that were ruling the day, and the game got really boring. It became so much about pitching and defense, and now we've kind of come out of that transitional phase, and the game is getting better and it's getting more entertaining again. And I know people worry about pace of play, but look, if you got good players and the games are entertaining, you don't worry so much about pace of play. You only worry about that when it's when you're it's all about. I like good pitching and I like good defense, but when it's everywhere, it just makes the game in general boring, and that's really what it was for a few years. And now, thankfully, it's not. It's offense has improved, and players have improved, and quality of play has improved as a result of it, and games have improved as a result of it. But one of I think the prevailing themes this year, and it's been a prevailing theme over the last couple of years, and maybe it hasn't been getting as much attention as it should have gotten because of other things, like I said, sabermetrics and pitching, and the game being kind of boring at times. But those things have kind of gone away. This theme has kind of stayed put, and that is the idea of again, bullpens taking over and starting pitching. Being more about just get us to that fifth or sixth inning. You don't see too many starters now go that long. And look, obviously injuries are always a concern, and more players are getting hurt now. You can link that to the fact that they got rid of amphetamines. Also, you can link it to whatever you want to link it to, but there's a lot of concern over players' injury, in particular pitchers and Tommy John surgery and all these other things like that. That's been a thing for the past couple of years. Well, general managers and these organizations have been really just racking their brain trying to figure out how to prevent the widespread injuries, especially to pitchers, that they've faced in the last decade. And they still can't, they do pitch counts, they protect the pitcher, they try to tell them not to throw more sliders or splitters. They do all these different things, and nothing seems to work. Nothing seems to work. And now it seems like with the, after what Kansas City did with their shutdown bullpen and everything, people started going more towards bullpens and, using the bullpen more and having more big arms in the bullpen. Maybe some that go a couple innings and taking the onus on the bullpen and not on the starters. Being okay with the idea of a starter going 5 or 6 innings. And you're seeing more and more teams go towards that, thinking, okay, that takes some of the onus off the starters and maybe that will help. And this year you're seeing that for sure. Like across the league, you're seeing starters go out at 80 pitches because, they just don't want to push them. And, so much focus now. I was watching a game over the weekend, and, there was talk of, stress pitches. And for those that do not know, stress pitches are those pitches that you have in a big situation. And if you're a starting pitcher or a relief pitcher or whatever, you may have men on base. It might be, those defining moments in a game, the bases loaded, nobody out, bases loaded, 1 out, 2 men on, 1 out, where the game might be on the line, even in the 5th inning sometimes, because, you might be facing a big name starting pitcher. Those are stress pitches. When the pitcher has to pitch under that kind of duress, when he's got men on, those are stress pitches. And some people, some managers, general managers, et cetera, are making the argument that those, even if a pitcher only throws 60, 70, 80 pitches, if he throws 30 or 40 of those kind of stress pitches, then that's almost like throwing 120, 130 pitches. And that's, they claim that contributes to a pitcher maybe going through some stuff and leading to an injury. So, look, I think by now you all know my feeling on this, okay? I'm very old school. I think all these safeguards that they're doing to try to protect these pitchers, and really players in general, and not just in baseball, but across all sports. Maybe not necessarily in football because concussions are a major issue there, but in basketball and primarily, see a lot of guys get arrested. Look, I can understand if you're in your upper 30s, okay, in age. I completely understand resting a player. But if you're under the age of 35, unless you have a history of injuries or you're injury prone, the level of rest that some of these players are getting is ridiculous when you consider for almost a century, more than a century, players busted their rear ends and played through games with injuries and all kinds of things and missed less games. That's the thing that boggles my mind. You look back at the old NBA in the 80s and 90s, etc. Players played through stuff and they miss so little time. Now they don't play through stuff, they rest and they get injured more. In baseball, you see it. Look at pitch counts and taking guys out after 5, 6 days. Pitchers are still getting hurt. Players are still getting hurt. They're getting hurt more than ever. There is something to be said about protecting these guys too much because if anything, I think it makes them more vulnerable. And here's the other thing I would argue too. The athletes nowadays train so hard. They want their bodies to be in the most ridiculously athletic shape. And I think that, you add those training hours and that training stress onto what they do in a game, of course, their normal practices and everything else. That might be more in line with what's causing injuries across all these sports than how many innings they pitch or how many innings they play or how many quarters they play or how many minutes they play or how many straight games they play. Now, I'm not saying don't let these guys work out, don't let them, but I think I think there needs to be a way to keep track of how often they're working out. Get them on a plan that allows them to not burn themselves out. Because I do think I think that might be where the problem is. Because if you look back through the decades, like I said, the old NBA, well, 10, 20 years ago, I know the steroid era, but you look back at that, yeah, guys worked out. Yeah, guys were well conditioned. But you listen to these guys talk now. That's all they do is work out. That's all they do is go through all these training exercises and that. I think they're burning themselves out and then fighting through walls while they're playing games. And that could get you injured too. I think you got to look at the whole picture. If you're these coaches, these managers, these players, look at the whole picture and balance your training, your workouts, your games, everything. Balance it all out and make sure that you have a plan that will protect you and allow you to play in these games, to pitch these innings, to play these innings. Because if you're working out so much, you're burning yourself out before you even step foot on the court or step foot on the field, then that's not good. And I do think that's what it is because I'm telling you, in baseball, guys pitched far more innings. They played far more games. They played far more games. It was a more intense game, a more physical game. And these guys played through injuries. They played. They had to have a significant injury or a significant problem to not be on the court or on the field. And nowadays, it's like these guys are at the point where if you blow on them, they're missing 2 days, or their managers are going out of their mind trying to figure out how they're going to rest them because they're afraid they're not going to be able to play when it matters the most. In baseball this year, this is becoming the pit, especially for pitchers, it's becoming a thing. I say go back to letting these guys throw 120, 130 pitches and watch how many pitches they throw in warm-ups, how often they work out. Balance their routines out. Balance their routines out and see where you go. Because I think it's funny, if you look around baseball right now, the guys that still, and there's very few of them, the starting pitchers or the players that still play every day, or the starting pitchers that still throw 7 innings or so and go 110, 120 pitches, are the guys that aren't getting hurt. At least not as much. That has to mean something. And it's going to be to me, it's going to be the big theme this season, other than what's going on in the field, is, obviously bullpens have come on in the last couple of years, But the idea that the starting pitcher is the role of the starting pitcher is changing. He's gone from somebody that you just want to go out there and dominate and give you as much as he can each and every start to the guy that you just hope gets you to a 5th or 6th inning, and then you just turn it over to the guys that really, in some people's minds, are the more elite pitchers now. There are some people out there, managers, owners, whatever, that have said that they're more elite pitchers are in the bullpen, and in some cases that might be. But they're putting more emphasis and more elite talent in the bullpens than they are in their starting rotations because they think they matter more late in the game. And it's become like that. It does matter more late in the game now. You just ask your starter now to just go out there and keep you in the game and let the bullpen take care of the rest. The roles and everything has changed in the last 5 years even. So it's going to bear watching here. It's probably going to be the prevailing theme here as we go down the stretch. Like I said, last couple of years, pitching, defense, sabermetrics, that has kind of ruled. But as offenses come back and bullpens have risen in importance, now this is the theme. The idea, the role of the starting pitcher changing and the growing importance of the bullpen, which has continued to grow more significant. So we'll see how it goes. As it goes along here, definitely be a storyline. As I said, I'm not going to go through records and everything because right now you just merely look. You kind of keep an eye on it. You don't really pay strong attention to records and standings and stuff until you really get to July All-Star break. And we're heading towards that. We're about a month out. Now is when you start looking at standings. Oh, there's a couple surprises. Let's see if they hang in there. Milwaukee, Yankees, whatever. But Colorado. So I don't want to go into that kind of diatribe here, but I did want to talk about the whole pitching thing because player safety and all that kind of stuff because that's been a prevailing topic, and a lot of you have been emailing me about that. So I got the baseball talk out of the way before Mike even got on the air. Mike, you're in the spotlight. I was on time tonight, 9 o'clock on the button.
I was extremely surprised. I, in fact, did not know you would be on at 9. I'm going to be honest with you. I was elsewhere.
Well, that's okay. I got the thing I got the topic that you didn't want to talk about out of the way.
Well, now you have to let me finish my sentence.
Okay, sorry. My bad.
I know you've been out of the game for a week or 2 or
more
3.
Than a week.
I don't care.
2 weeks.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll let your co-host finish his statement. that is hosting number 1. Brian, I think you need to go back to basics. So when you have a co-host, you got to let him say his one sentence before the host can ramble on. That is the ethics of terrible hosting, written by Brian Gardner, PhD. Probably no relation to you, but who knows? Anyways, what I was going to say was doing other things. And then I came back and I saw that you had put me in this video call 20 minutes ago, and I was shocked and awed. Quite frankly, pleasantly surprised that your ass could be on in a reasonable time tonight. So I applaud you for actually being on time and for talking about this stupid baseball topic and for what it's worth. You, especially the role of the starting pitcher, feel like the game hasn't evolved that much to the point where you can have a substandard starter. All of your really good players kind of be the middle guys. The middle guys are only supposed to be the ones who are holding pattern, if you will, just to get to the closer. So you're now more reliant on those middle innings as opposed to, hey, pitcher set the tone for our defense, for our game.
Mm-hmm.
A little disheartening. Sabermetrics, they're a thing. But I digress. The game hasn't evolved that much, and I'm pretty sure it'll kind of back into that, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to need to. And this is just me hoping, especially if the game goes back towards a more offensive style, an ass ton of home runs, because that's what people want to see. The long ball. They give no shits about sabermetrics. 50 booking in wrestling. Nobody likes 50-50 booking in wrestling.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about those stats. They want to be invested. They want to see the long ball, man.
Yeah.
Which is unrelated. Mark McGwire should be in the Hall of Fame. Fuck you, writers.
But, well, listen, I mean, it is headed in that direction. You have better players. Their home runs offense the last 2 years has been up again. So hopefully it is continuing to head in that direction. Because, again, if you have more offense and you have better people, don't really worry about pace of play because they're entertained. If every game's 1-0, then
that's all great. You're done in 4.5 hours. But alternatively, that 4.5 hours with an ass ton of home runs, that people are like, hey, this nothing game between the Jays and the Astros. I don't care if they're the right league or not. I'm just making that shit up. Look at this nothing game between the Jays and the Astros. It's literally a football score. I'm invested. Batista has hit 4 home runs today. Do tell.
Extra emphasis. Yeah. Look, I get it. And that does not mean we're advocating for steroid use or anything. We're just advocating for, look, there was, you mentioned it, sabermetrics, run prevention, that kind of thing. There was a few years there where GMs were going more after guys, best players, of just on the cheap and really could just prevent runs from scoring. And that was boring as hell. And finally, they started worrying more about just getting the best players. When you get the best players, you can put together a good lineup and then things can come together. And you're seeing that now with some teams. They finally got back to the basics and you're seeing improvement. And hopefully it continues. We'll leave the baseball alone. Like I said, we got through. I just wanted to talk about that one topic. Before we get to the NBA, because NBA, we do have the finals to get through, and finals game 3 is not till tomorrow. Now, don't ask me why they're skipping 2 games. I mean, I know they had to travel, but this whole I'm telling you, they got to do something about this, but we'll talk more about it later. But first off, I want to talk about Tiger Woods. Because that happened while we were gone. And look, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about this because, this is an athlete, this is an icon that, for the last couple years, it's been, when will Tiger Woods finally become Tiger Woods again? We've seen him play in tournaments. We've seen him play in major tournaments. There were a couple signs a couple years ago in some smaller tournaments, and it's just never come together. He's just never gotten it right. From his swing to staying healthy. And then about 3 weeks ago, you heard him say that he had this nerve compression thing, and he was feeling better than he ever has, pain-free, and looked like he was going to come back and play golf again. And then, what does Tiger Woods do a week ago? He gets arrested. And, that really, for driving under the influence. And what little he had left of his image, and endorsements and everything, this got sullied because, look, you're never going to forget all the stuff that happened. All the stories and even the stories that were never substantiated. You're never going to forget all that. It's always going to follow him. But enough time had passed for so much of the focus was on him getting healthy and playing at at least a reasonably high level again. And now while that is still in play, you have this to go along with it that brings back all that stuff that maybe would have been what that was pushed back to the back burner, was pushed to the back of people's minds because enough years had passed. You don't forget these things, but they push to the back of your mind. Well, what happened last week with Tiger brings it all back to the forefront because it shows that this is still a guy that thinks he's invincible. This is still a guy that thinks, there's a superiority thing here. And look, we know that that's with some of the top athletes that happens. But not every top athlete goes out there and gets arrested for driving under the influence or doing some of the things that Tiger has done. So the question you're going to have right here is this: what is this another what happens to Tiger Woods here? Because now the question is going to be, even if he is healthy, okay, even if he gets back on the course and pain-free, his swing is all right and everything's well and good, will this be a distraction? Because that's the thing that people forget about now, is so much of the focus the last maybe year or two has been on his physical ailments. Before that, we were talking a lot about mental ailments, the distractions of his personal life and his private life, and all the drama and all the scandal that took place within it. We know mentally he was a mess for a while. And then he kind of got wrapped more up. He started to finally put that aside, and then he started getting hurt again, and it just spiraled from there. And so much of the focus went towards the injuries. But now this is this is a PR thing. This is an image thing. This is a personal thing. You're bringing this back as a distraction. So now the focus goes from the physical back to the mental again. Him at what he's saying, physically he's fine right now, or he's as good as he's going to be. So now the question is going to be, how does this influence him? Now, some people think it won't influence him at all. Oh, he just got arrested. He drove under the influence. It's not at all like the scandal before, where it was, to me, look, it's a little bit more of a basic scandal. He drank and he drove. Okay, that's it's not as layered as the previous scandal. But it's still a scandal, and it's still something that, people are going to ask you about and people are going to bring up, and you're going to have to face that. So it could have an influence on him mentally because it takes the focus off his game again, which is when he's in the past mentally has gotten into trouble. The bottom line is this: Tiger Woods is never going to be what Tiger Woods was, both in terms of image and in terms of player. And even if he is able to go back to a reasonably high level now that he's had this surgery and he claims he's pain free, I don't expect him to ever rattle off a successful streak like he did again. He might win a tournament here and there, but he's ordinary now. He's like everybody else in the PGA. He's going to go out there, and once in a while, if the course plays his favor, if he just happens to have a good weekend, he'll win a tournament. And that's it. You've lost the dominant figure that drove your sport and that was on another level for almost a decade, over a decade. You've lost that. And even if he somehow managed to put it all together on the course and become superhuman again, which is highly doubtful at his age and given everything that's happened, is never going to be one that you really want to use as a driving force in your tour again. His image is sullied beyond repair. Could he go out there and still talk to kids and and be a positive influence? Sure, he can. But it's kind of like it's one of those things where he can't be the centerpiece anymore. He can't be the icon anymore. Is too much water under that bridge. And that's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. Mike, do you have anything to add?
Ooh. Ever. Here's the thing about Tiger. Well, allegedly, according to his people, he wasn't caught drinking.
Okay.
Caught driving under the influence of prescription medications that made him drowsy, sluggish.
Okay. All right. That's important to note.
So that's what his people say. The other part of Twitter has it like, oh, he was super drunk. As it well. So it's either it's here or there. Choose a place. I choose to believe that Tiger, having under the influence of probably because that seems to be more in line with him.
Right.
For that, no expert on that, so don't quote me on that. As for Tiger, 10 years ago, he was the face of the sport. Just about, right? 10 years ago, he was the face of the sport.
Yeah. Right.
He was mentioned in the same breath as Jordan, as Gretzky, as the greatest of all time. And he just might be still the greatest golfer of all time. But you're right when you say his legacy is forever tarnished. And look, entirely self-inflicted. Tiger's part. Entirely. You have a beautiful wife. You have kids. You are the face of your sport. You literally married a supermodel. So what do you do? Woods, you have a series of mistresses in every single town you travel to. That'll ever happen, right? Something happened. And so he felt like he was invincible. He was top of the world. Nobody was better than him. He could get away with everything. And then his world is totally shattered. He was found out, left him, took half of his money, the kids. His worldview was shattered. A mental, and as a result of that, mess. He got with Lindsey Vonn. Whether or not, don't know. He seemed to be in a better place. Surgeries. One thing you are never supposed to do when you take pills like that. Operate machinery. Good Lord, there's a reason why they say on the fucking bottle, do not operate machinery when taking this pill. Wonder why. And that's right, Zed and Alyssa Cara. Minute. Time. What's that? I was playing in the background. It's Justin yelling, Joey. But anyways, the thing is this. This is a hell of his own making.
Right.
To get out of it. All he had to do was not fuck himself over. Sometimes you're your own worst enemy. Long story short, sometimes you can't get out of your own way.
Right.
In Tiger's case, he ignored doctor's orders if that's what it was, and machinery under the influence of his medication. Once you do that, you usually end up with a mugshot like this. face, everybody. That's if you're listening to this later, I made a drunk face.
Yeah.
Or he was drinking, driving, and a guy who is educated at Stanford should know you don't combine the two.
Exactly.
Tiger Woods can't get out of his own way.
Whether he was drinking or it was prescription drugs or whatever, either way, it was still dumb to do what he did. And it's just another mark on his ledger, and it's not. It's again, you said it. He can't get out of his own way, and
he can't get out of his own way. And the worst part is now he can never. Can he really be mentioned in the same vein as Jordan and Gretzky? And
no, because they no.
No, he can't.
No, I mean he had that kind of impact, but at this point, it's been so long and so much has happened.
Did he have a legendary run?
Yeah.
Will his run ever be replicated? Probably not. Is he going to be seen as an inspirational figure, a titan of his sport, future generations of golfers? Maybe not anymore.
No.
And essentially, whose fault is that?
That's his.
Tiger Woods. If I'm Tiger Woods, I can't blame anybody else but the man in the mirror.
Exactly. No, you're 100% right. You're 100% right. He ruined his own legacy. It's we talk about a lot of guys in baseball that ruined their own legacies. He did it. He ruined his own legacy.
All he had to do, essentially, in this case, all he had to do was call a taxi.
Exactly. Yep. It's a simple thing.
Previously, all he had to do was be satisfied with sticking his dick in his supermodel wife.
And
not IHOP waitress in the southern United States.
And look, as much as I don't want to deflect responsibility because it is up to him too, but there's a lot of people around. These major athletes have their inner circles that follow them around, hang out with them, go. You know what I mean? Somebody, in these situations, you keep wondering when people are standing around, don't people notice these things and try to look out for his best interests? I mean, look, it's ultimately up to him. He has to do it for himself, too. I'm not trying to take responsibility away from him. But you have to wonder about the people around him, too, and why they let him make these decisions sometimes. But
I would expect this behavior out of Nick Swaggy P. Young. No. I would not expect it out of Tiger Wizards. But here's the thing. Even if he had his inner circle around him, say he was drinking and had his inner circle around him, sure, they're going to enable that behavior because they feel like he's having a good time.
Fair
but
enough.
At some point, right, they probably should have said, "Hey, Tiger, let's have the sober guy drive us." But if he's taking prescription meds, he's probably not doing that. He's probably not at a pill party. Or like, hey, everybody throw your meds in and we're just going to...
Yeah.
But fun fact, if you ever get invited to a pill party, don't go. Go and ingest pills that you cannot handle, you're going to die. Don't do it.
All right. So I wanted to obviously touch on that because that was a significant story. Really quick before we get to the NBA thing, because we don't do it a lot, but every once in a while we do, and I feel like we should because we do have some hockey fans. And I just want to briefly acknowledge that we are having a really good series in the Stanley Cup Finals right now between the Nashville Predators and the Pittsburgh Penguins. Pittsburgh, of course, trying to win another championship here, and Nashville trying to break through. And look, it's been a good series. It's tied 2 games apiece. NBC's getting some terrific ratings out of it, as they should. A big key factor, and I watched a little bit of this series. It's been really entertaining. Obviously, you got Crosby in there. You got Malkin in there. You got you got some talent in there. And one of the big keys in how, the Predators have played and got themselves back into the series has been their goalie, who really just struggled at the stop of this final and has come on, rediscovered himself a little bit and has really got his confidence back here. And now you got a tie series, and many people thinking, 7 games, which is good for the Stanley Cup. It's been a good series. You know, the top talent that you expected to perform has performed. And, you know, obviously home ice has been big for Nashville a little bit. You know, that's sometimes the way it goes. Sometimes you get these series where home advantage plays a role, and sometimes you don't. In this case, it does. You know, and obviously we have a pivotal Game 5 here coming up on Thursday on NBC at 8. And obviously that's a significant game. That's a significant game because, you know, the way home has played in this series, you know, I think Nashville's best chance here is to win Game 5. I think you cannot allow it to get to a Game 7 because Pittsburgh does have a little bit more talent and a lot more in their favor, and obviously home ice and such. That plays a role as well. I don't like the idea of Nashville facing a Game 7 in Pittsburgh with Crosby and company there. With the experience they have, I think that's dangerous. I wouldn't go there. I think Nashville needs to win these next 2 games. They're going to have a chance. If they win Game 5, they go into home. They go home with a lot of momentum, and they play very well in their building. And that's a key. I think that's their best chance to win the series. I'm not saying it's impossible for them to win a Game 7 in Pittsburgh, but I think that, you know, in these situations, if you're the team that plays better at home and you're the the team that's, you know, the underdog, and, you know, you're the team that doesn't have don't have as much talent as the other team you're facing, you do not want to put yourself with a back against the wall in a hostile environment if you can avoid it. And they can avoid if they win Game 5. They win Game 5, they can go home to play and to try to end this thing. And I think that's their best chance. Ultimately, I think Pittsburgh's going to win this series, but I think it's going 7. I do think it's going to go 7, but I think Pittsburgh wins the series. I just think Pittsburgh got more talent and more experience, which I think is key. But we'll see. I think they've gotten lucky. They've had a tremendous series. The NHL's had a tremendous playoffs, much better than the NBA. Plus, they have a great series here with good talent and a little bit of you know, Nashville there. It's a little fresh, too. So, you know, I think NHL's had a good run here, and that's good for them. NBA, on the other hand, but before I cross over to that, Mike, I don't think you do, but do you have anything to contribute on the NHL topic?
How dare you?
Well, I don't know.
Stop assuming my opinion, you jerk. Anyways.
Mm-hmm.
All right. As many of you well know, Justin and I were in Canada last week, and what just happened last week was the one of the conference finals between the Penguins and the Ottawa Senators. Now, as I discovered, no teams from Canada have made the Stanley Cup in a very long time. So it was Game 7. Game 7, and Canada was putting their hopes on the Ottawa Senators hard. Like it was Friday night. I even kept an eye on the game because it was 1-1. It was tied, and it went like 3 overtimes. It went like 3 overtimes. It went really late at night, and I was like, man, I think the Senators might have this one. Could have this one, but I'm going to go to sleep real quick. It's pretty late, but I had actually changed the channel, and it ended up, I think, on professional wrestling. It was pretty. I digress. I woke up the next morning. I don't know who won or not. I didn't know, and it was like morning. The Penguins beat the Senators overtime. Everybody was so sad and depressed. And we have an All-American Stanley Cup. So I thought it was like the nicest bit of schadenfreude ever. Canada's sport. It's national sport is actually lacrosse. but the one people actually care about is hockey. Now, Canada's sport, and once again for another year, get a team in the Stanley Cup, which is sad. Now, the Nashville Predators destroying everybody this postseason. They had a solid run. Really, really struggled at times. So the fact that Pittsburgh came out, took Nashville pretty hard, was very surprising. Nashville was kind of regained their footing, and now the series is tied 2-2. The series is tied 2-2. So if I'm the Predators, I try to negate the Crosby influence. I try to win Game 5.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you. You have to, and then you have to win Game 6, because if you go back to Pittsburgh, game over. That's not the best place. I mean, this series could have taken place in Ottawa, but unfortunately, well, I guess fortunately, I suppose it couldn't. It could have been more rabid, but like, so try to keep it to 6. And railroading teams all postseason. This is your first opportunity at the Cup. You have to make the most of it, especially against a team who is playoff tested like Pittsburgh. They've won a few Cups already. Got a few. And you know what, believe it or not, Justin and I were talking about it. This could be, if the Penguins win, this could be Sidney Crosby's last hurrah.
Yeah.
This could be Sidney Crosby's last hurrah. He could be retiring early because he's had a lot of severe concussions throughout his career. Being the best player on one of the best teams in the league, you're a target. It doesn't matter how much padding you have on, you're still going to get your brain rumbled around if you get hit hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just the nature of the game. And I will say the NHL has taken more precautions than, say, the National Football League. So, Pittsburgh, I think, is playing for more than just pride this time around. I think this is going to be the end for Pittsburgh. This is going to be Pittsburgh's. I think Pittsburgh's going to win the Cup, and I think this is Sidney Crosby's last go around. Might retire on top.
Well, that'd be the perfect ending if he could. So,
storybook ending has been almost everything in sports lately. Peyton Manning got his. If Brady had retired, that was it. You know?
No,
if Brady had retired, that was it.
Brady figures he has all
Brady's
the chances.
got a few.
Yeah.
There we go, I think. But if he was going to retire, Manning the first comeback in Super Bowl history, that would have fucking been it now, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would have been.
That's the thing. So storybook endings have been kind of like a big trend. What's his face got one for the Cubs last year. He was just on Dancing with the Stars. But storybook endings have been a thing.
Yeah.
And for Sidney Crosby, you can't ask for anything more than for Pittsburgh to move forward from there.
Yeah.
It should be, you know what? You've got 3 games left. He's got an advantage. The first team to win 2 games. Who knows?
Yeah. And like I said, they've had a much better series than the NBA, who, you know,
NBA.
The NBA is a mess.
Here's the thing with the NBA playoffs. It's not like it's professional wrestling where you can manipulate the results. They just happen.
Oh, I know.
You can't do anything. And to be fair, the NBA did get the final they were hoping for.
Oh, they did.
Match. They got what they wanted.
I think yeah.
And you know what? Before you say it, I think what you're saying is why the Golden State Warriors dealt with it in the postseason by signing Kevin Durant. This is why you got Kevin Durant.
You know, here's my problem with this, okay? So we've been talking about this all. I thought the first round or two of the playoffs wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It wasn't bad. But the last, the Eastern Conference Finals and the Western Conference Finals, we all thought had some great potential and ended up not having potential. They ended up being, they just were messy. And look, nobody would have predicted that Golden State was going to go on this run. Last year they had the incredible record in the regular season record, and they struggled at times in the postseason. And then this year they have a very good regular season, but not nearly as impressive. And now they've dominated the postseason. And Cleveland, for the most part, has done the same thing until this series. The thing though that bothers me about this postseason for NBA. First of all, I'm not sure why we have to drag the finals the way we do. You know as well as I do. I never liked that whole 2 games off thing in between game 1 and 2. I understand you have to have an extra day for a travel day. Get that, okay? But why? I don't know why they've done it over the years. I don't know why they've done it. I think it's stupid that they've done it. But I digress. And now they have an extra day this year. Now, I don't mind it so much when you have to travel, but why? They're trying to extend the way that they're extending. They're killing the momentum of the series. Now, granted, it's 2 games up for Golden State here, so there's not really a whole lot of momentum other than Golden State's end. But you're hurting this series by continuously having 2 days off in between games. You play Thursday, we don't play again until Sunday. You play Sunday, we don't play again until Wednesday. After Wednesday, they don't play till Friday. Like, you're killing the momentum. It hurts, and this has been the case all postseason, all these extra days, and I think it's stupid. It's not helping. It hurts. I've complained about the week in between. I understand from injury points and that it helps, but I've complained about how long it takes in college football and the NFL to get to certain games. It's stupid. Just get to the Super Bowl and to the championship game. It takes the momentum out of it. But here's the thing, too. I'm not going to go on this tirade about how the NBA needs to stop the whole super team thing, because here's the thing. Super teams have been going on for over nearly a decade now. You go back to the Celtics and the Big Three. We've had super teams, and they've been able to win, and they've been able to lose. Teams have been able to beat the super teams. Golden State was already a super team before Kevin Durant walked on it. It's just that Kevin Durant gives them a different dimension. And here's the thing that I think you have to remember too. And I'm not taking anything away from Cleveland last year, because Cleveland earned it last year. But let's be honest too for a second. Draymond Green got suspended. That changed the series too. Stephen Curry was hurt and never looked right for about 2 series in the playoffs last year. There were other things last year too that aided Cleveland. Would Cleveland have still won? I think they would have, yes. But I think that it would have been I think that those things made it a little bit easier for them to win those games than they would have been. Probably a lot more hotly contested at the end there. But the thing about Cleveland is this right now. They can't defend. They have 2 guys on the court right now. 3 guys. I'm sorry. 3 guys on the court right now in Love, Irving, and LeBron that are being consistent on both ends of the floor and are doing their damnedest to defend right now. And everybody else is not doing their job. Whereas with Golden State, everybody's doing their job. And they're a hard team to defend, no doubt about it, because you can't just spot up on defense for the jump shot because Durant's going to the basket and killing you. That's the thing that I think took Cleveland by surprise is they didn't just settle for jump shots in these games. They're going to the basket at will. For Cleveland, that hurts because, You know, you got LeBron, your two of your best defenders are out on the perimeter, LeBron and Irving. They're getting caught on the perimeter, and the only one down to defend is Love. Nobody else is doing much of anything. Thompson kind of gives you minutes here and there, but their defense has been horrid, and that's been the problem. Other guys have got to step up and help. If they don't, they're not going to win. Offensively, I think they've been fine. I mean, LeBron had a stinker in the last series, but he's going to have those once in a while. Every player does. Huh?
Is that Michael?
Well, Michael didn't know, but look, we all know you may have been pretty honest about the fact that LeBron's not Michael, despite what everybody tries to sell. You know, but like I said, you know, he has a bad game, and that's what it is. I think this series is done, to be honest, because I don't think I don't think Cleveland has the personnel to defend Golden State. I think we've seen that in the first two games, because it's not like Cleveland didn't try to make adjustments from game 1 to 2. They did. It's just that they don't have the personnel. They have the personnel offensively to equal them. They don't have the personnel defensively to equal them. That's primarily the key, is that they just don't have the personnel. If you don't have the personnel, there's nothing you can do. Do I expect Cleveland to be swept? I'm not saying it's impossible, but I don't think it's likely. I think Cleveland will at least win a game. But I think the chances of this finals going 7 games or even 6 are pretty much gone. I just don't think there's enough with Cleveland personnel-wise to be able to stop it. To stop what Golden State's doing offensively. I just don't think they have it. So it's unfortunate for the NBA. This is the series they want. It's a series we all want, and we all look forward to it. And look, the third round of this is probably not going to be as good as the first, as good as last year's. The year before was kind of lackluster too, if you remember, because you know Cleveland had injuries, and it was just LeBron, and it ended up being nothing. Last year was a good series, but you know you don't always get these. You know, just because you get what you want, you don't always get good series. But this NBA playoffs has been rough. You know, the Spurs didn't hold up their end of the bargain, and obviously Kawhi Leonard was hurt, so that made it difficult. In Boston, you know, Isaiah Thomas ended up getting hurt, and there were other things going on. So you can't help those series. This series on paper, you had all the talent. You thought it was going to be equally matched. Turns out it's not. Durant's impossible to defend right now, and Golden State in general is impossible to defend right now. And it's really, you know, you can't sit here and say, well, Cleveland has to do this, Cleveland has to do that. Cleveland can't do it because they don't have the personnel to do it. And that's the problem. And that's why they're going to lose this series. I don't think there's anything they can really do about it. So I'm going to say Golden State in 5 here. You know, a week ago, if I had made this prediction before the finals, I would have said that this series was going 7. And I actually, believe it or not, I liked Cleveland. I thought even though Golden State had not lost a game, I thought Cleveland had been more tested. I liked what Cleveland was doing. What a difference a week makes, you know? But it is what it is. Tomorrow night, game 3, it's a must-win for Cleveland. If they're going to win this series, they have to win tomorrow night. If not, then you know, it's just a matter of when, not if, this series is over. That game 3 tomorrow in Cleveland at 9:00 p.m. Eastern on ABC. We'll see how it goes. I think, like I said, I think Cleveland will get a game, but I can't see him doing more than that. Mike, go ahead.
Totally be honest with you, I have not been watching an awful lot of NBA. I watched a little bit last weekend. I've been following it, but I haven't been watching it because, you know, once I got back, I've been pretty busy and under the weather. A little bit of time. I can wholeheartedly say, and I pretty much said it out straight. This is why the Golden State Warriors signed Kevin Durant. Finals were pretty clear because last year Cleveland was firing on all cylinders, and couldn't do anything. Their threes weren't falling. They couldn't play defense. Nothing was going right for Golden State. This year, however, got that added dimension of Kevin Durant, the guy who can go to the basket, the guy who can hit threes, the guy who can literally do everything better than everybody else on the floor except for LeBron James. That's it. They got another guy, and all of a sudden, all of Golden State shooters are open all the time. The basket, and Klay Thompson occasionally goes to the basket. Steph Curry occasionally will go to the basket, but most of the time it's Durant. Can really stop Durant, and nobody on Cleveland's playing really good defense. Like the guys who they brought in to play defense are not playing defense. They brought in to hit threes, J.R. Smith, are not hitting threes. They're criticizing LeBron James, J.R. Smith. Probably not the best idea. Up until last week, Cleveland had all of the momentum in the world. Cleveland had unfortunately, them's the breaks. And if you can't defend, look, Kevin Durant's going to get 30 regardless of whether or not you stop him or not. If you can contain some of the other Warriors, if you can solid perimeter defense, if you can really go hard at them defensively, you're in this series. But the thing is, you're not scoring 110 every game, scoring 130, playing defense. Keep them to 90. Beat them. If you can keep, listen to this. If you can keep the Golden State Warriors to 100 points, they're beatable. Say that, but Cleveland's a team that can score 110 every game. But this is your problem. Your business is not being handled. You're not going to win. You can't play defense. You can't even keep him under 100 points. You can't do it. You're not going to win. And it's showing why he was such a valuable commodity. A new dimension of the Warriors, and right now they look unbeatable. And Cleveland doesn't have an answer. So if I'm Cleveland, I figure out this solution real quick. Otherwise, the story getting out that you're still paying Mike Brown isn't the worst of it, you know? They're still paying Mike Brown.
I saw that story. That's pretty funny.
So are the Lakers. The Lakers. Mike Brown's getting 3 paychecks, and he's getting paid by both teams in the finals. I think it's funny. However, it is the nature of the game. Mike Brown is about ready to beat his old team.
Hideously ironic.
No. Well, it's ironic. Actually, Steve Kerr came back last night or the last game, so ironic, right? Don't you think?
Yeah.
Mike Brown might get a ring with the king. Oh, it's funny. It's a limerick because it's true. So, there you go.
I told you all there wasn't a lot to talk about the NBA, and it's the truth. There isn't. It is what it is. What can you say about it? You know, this series could be over by the end of the week. It's the truth. But we'll see. We'll see. Golden State's in a good position here. That's for sure.
He is not in a good position. In Cleveland, get a tissue.
Thank you, Mike. I appreciate that. All right. So, can you imagine Russell Westbrook? You know, got all these headlines this season if Kevin Durant wins the title. That would be funny. That'd be ironic. Just like Mike Brown winning. Oh, stop. I'm not even doing anything. I'm not even doing anything with my nose, so stop.
Yes.
I did. Okay, I did that a couple times. Relax. Stop.
Not. Brian, just take one.
I will take. Okay, Mike. If I need one, I will grab one. I do not need one right now. I'm not doing anything with my nose. Oh, stop it. Jesus. Anyway, but yeah, it would be not only would be ironic with Mike Brown, but obviously it'll be ironic with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, even though they supposedly buried the hatchet. Durant in one season gone from Thunder wins a title. So, of course, he had a lot of help. Let's just be honest there. With Durant and with Curry and Thompson and Green and Iguodala, and we could go on and on and on. But anyway, so with that in mind, again, we'll keep you up to date as we go along here at the NBA playoffs. And usually they're on opposite us, but this year they did a different schedule. That's their choice. But anyway, so now we go to wrestling. And some things have happened in the last couple of weeks. One of the worst segments at least of the year, although I think it probably go down as one of the worst segments of all time, on Raw last week with the Alexa Bliss Bayley stuff, and that whole program was just a mess. And then we had Extreme Rules on Sunday, which ended up being a decent pay-per-view, led by The Miz. Ambrose match, which wasn't bad. Of course, a very good main event, Fatal 5-Way, which Samoa Joe shockingly won. And going into that event, odds makers were saying that, or the odds were saying that Samoa Joe was the favorite. Everybody was kind of like, what? And when they finally saw it, it was kind of shocking. And then we had and then that built us up to probably the best Monday Night Raw that we've had in about a month. Maybe even longer. Headlined by a great segment between Samoa Joe and Paul Heyman, which did an effective job of building his match with Brock Lesnar. And that was a big highlight last night, along with a few other things like the Miz and Ambrose segment. And I'm really skirting because there's so much that happened. But I give WWE credit. The Extreme Rules pay-per-view on Sunday was probably the best pay-per-view. In my opinion, it was the best pay-per-view since WrestleMania. Because I don't feel like anything. I mean, the only thing that I thought was a really bad waste of time was the Alexa Bliss Bayley thing match. I thought that was bad. Everything else I thought was at least serviceable to good. I didn't come out cringing at anything. And so overall, I thought the pay-per-view was solid. And that's the best I've been able to say about pay-per-view since WrestleMania. And last night's Monday Night Raw was the best probably since the Superstar Shakeup. So it was a good Raw. A lot of movement, a lot of setup. Bray Wyatt had a good night. Bray Wyatt was the MVP of that Fatal 5-Way on Sunday night. All in all, I thought the Raw brand had a good 2 days between Extreme Rules and yesterday. SmackDown, on the other hand, has been the better show. Has had more going for it. Had a botch with Ziggler and Styles last week that was kind of flimsy, but I think they've had a lot of momentum. They're doing the female Money in the Bank match, which I think it's a good thing. I think we all suspected they might do something like that, but finally confirming that. And then they set up the men's Money in the Bank match, which it's going to be a great match of all the guys you got in that. Obviously, you have the Jinder Mahal Randy Orton program, which at least is fresh talent, even though. And I don't think Jinder's doing a bad job. I just think it's too much too soon. We already talked about that. And then tonight you had some interesting developments. Lana made her SmackDown debut and gets a title shot. I've been hearing that they were going to do 2 women's matches at Money in the Bank, and everybody's like, well, wait a minute, what other match could they do? All the main contenders for Naomi's title are in the Money in the Bank match. Well, now we know Lana's going to get a title shot against Naomi, which could be a hard match to kind of watch, I imagine, because even if Lana made strides, she's still probably going to be pretty green. And Naomi's already still pretty green. So anyway, so you get that match. You got Nakamura Owens, which was very short, weirdly short, but ended, the way I think we would imagine it ending. And then we had a little bit of Baron Corbin. Baron Corbin is clearly the guy they want us to think is going to win Money in the Bank because they're giving, at least for tonight anyway, because they gave him the kind of like the grand night here where he kind of started attacking people, Zayn and Nakamura, etc. So, but for the most part, other than Nakamura, Owens, and the Lana stuff was really interesting, and she got a good pop, which I expected her to. People like Lana, so. Other than that, it was a fairly uneventful smack. Oh, and they announced John Cena will be back officially on July 4th, which is not shocking. But other than that, it was a fairly uneventful SmackDown. Again, SmackDown has been the better show, but I think Raw got them this week, and I think Raw turned the corner on Sunday. They've been kind of burning off some of this WrestleMania stuff, and I think finally they moved themselves forward. I said once they got through Extreme Rules, I felt like they'd go in a better direction, and it looks like they have. And the Samoa Joe Brock Lesnar thing's going to carry them a little bit. So, Mike, your thoughts? Raw, SmackDown, Extreme Rules, anything from the last few weeks you want to?
All right. Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I didn't really. I mean, I watched a little bit the last few weeks, as I told you last night. All right, bye. I didn't watch enough. I didn't watch Raw last week enough to even get to the "This Is Your Life" segment, and thankfully I didn't. Otherwise, I probably would have hated wrestling forever and for always. I'm exaggerating because I love wrestling, but it would have been terrible. I thought Extreme Rules was pretty good. Extreme Rules, I enjoyed it as a fan. Miz and Ambrose had a really solid match, really good match. They played off the stipulation. They did everything I could have hoped for. It was solid. I enjoyed that match. Elias Sampson's getting a lot of heat, whether it's go away heat or real heel heat at this point, but he's getting a reaction. It's more than you could say for a lot of people on the roster, The guy getting a reaction. Sheamus and Cesaro are the tag champs again. They beat the Hardy Boys in Steel Cage. I love that match. It took a minute or two to really get going, but once they did, hot damn, it was a good match. The less said about Bliss and Bayley, the better. Alexa Bliss tried. Bliss tried. She can only do so much. So, good match. Good match with the main event. Great match. Very exciting. And look, I will agree with you. Look, Raw was all right. I'm not going to say it was. I really wanted to see what's going on with Goldust because the Goldust stuff is entertaining as hell. The Samoa Joe stuff is the most interesting stuff they've done in forever. Segment was incredibly effective. Incredibly effective. It getting over Joe as this monster. It might be the only guy on the roster not afraid of Brock Lesnar. That segment last night was fantastic. This was good. SmackDown, I didn't see anything, although I heard that Mojo almost got into the Money in the Bank match. Would have been a thing. A terrible thing, but it would have been a thing. So, yeah, it looks like Corbin's going to be the guy. Ziggler. And this week, Ziggler pretty much got squashed by AJ Styles.
Well, we all knew that was coming.
Yeah, it was like a 5-minute match, I think. I wasn't paying attention to the whole thing. It felt like it was like 5 minutes. Ziggler did not last long in that match with AJ tonight. But I didn't get a chance to see SmackDown. I do like the Fashion Files. I think the Fashion Files are like the funniest thing. One of the funniest things on television. So, the fact that Breezango did not get the championships I think it was a missed opportunity completely. Really, because I think Breezango feels fresher than at this point.
Yeah.
Breezango is so good.
They're awesome.
The fashion files are a legit highlight every week. It was no different. They had the New Day on. Was good. So, did you know that the Usos day one is H? It was like day one-ish? But day one is H. So good. So good. Anyways, I didn't see Nakamura Owens. I didn't see the other things yet. Later, but I enjoyed it for what it was. Wrestling.
The good thing is that I feel like we're out of the. I feel like we're out of the worst of it now. That's the good thing.
We're not. I'm disagreeing with you. We're not until that title is off of Brock Lesnar. We're not until we move away from Roman Reigns as the guy. We're not. But right now, if you're talking, let me finish. If you're talking about the post WrestleMania slump, we're slowly getting there. Slowly.
Well, that's what I mean.
Especially with WWE, a lot of while we're slowly getting out of the slump, we could have been completely. I just followed a couple of key things. No 50-50 booking, consistent storylines, and don't put the world title on a part-timer. Well, there's a reason why we're slowly moving away from it now, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
They did all of those things, and they fucked up.
Well, I also think, too, it doesn't help when you hear things like creative doesn't want to bother with anything, so they're giving multiple guy matches on television every week. See, WWE is the only company that can get away with having a couple months where creative just doesn't want to bother. Like that, to me, that's just ridiculous. Like you know what I mean? Like if you're that burnt out, take some vacation time and have somebody else fill your spot. I mean, that's just ridiculous to me. So basically, after WrestleMania, it's just like, well, let's just peter out somebody's feuds and let's do multiple guy matches. I wonder why the show had no energy for 2 months. As soon as they.
Where'd American Alpha go?
Yeah. Basically, as soon as they did the Superstar shakeup and they threw everybody on different shows, they basically gave up for 6 weeks.
Yep.
And that's why the show stunk. And now it's like, oh yeah, SummerSlam's coming, so and Money in the Bank is coming, so we better start getting back on track. We had our month off, now we can get back on track. I just think that's ridiculous. Can you imagine a show saying, well, everybody, we're bored right now, let's take a couple weeks off? You can't do that.
Nope.
It's ridiculous that they even let them do that. I get that it's a hard company to deal with and Vince and everything. I get that, but that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. That's embarrassing. And it gets reported. And I know that people don't read the dirt sheets and everything, but you can see the writings on the wall. It's been on the wall every week for the last 6 weeks. You can practically feel that the show there's been no energy at all. Even in the fall, if there were things that you didn't like, you have to admit there wasn't energy to the show. There was always energy. There was different direction. There was something. You know what I mean? There was something on the show that would get your interest. And this past month, there was nothing. Last year, I think the only reason why it never got that bad was because they knew the brand split was coming and they were trying to position themselves. So they had to be focused even after WrestleMania last year. Because they were headed towards something before SummerSlam, and they knew they had to be in position. This year, it was like 2 years ago when, after WrestleMania, it's like, well, we're all tired. Let's just pack it in. That's what it was like. So, whatever. It's been... I do think we're in the right direction, but you're right. It's a slow progression out of the hole that they were in.
Very slow.
Very, very slow. But it's a start. All right. So we got through everything that we had to get through. Not bad for first show back. So that's it for tonight. As always, the show might be over. It does not mean you have to stop interacting, contributing to the show. Continue to have your voice heard. Send us your feedback, your questions, your comments on things we said, things we talked about, topic ideas related to sports, entertainment, wrestling, that you want us to cover. And these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Please remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And, of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure you like our page once you find it, once you're on it. We encourage you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest information about our show. That's where I usually update. Obviously, sometimes I don't, but obviously that's usually when I update things. If I can't tell you on the show, something or anything like that. We also post random thoughts on there as well. So make sure that you follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Just search for In the Spotlight 411, and make sure you follow us, you like us, and then you have that way you'll have access to everything we post, and you can interact with us, and all that good stuff. You have two ways in which to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. You can either check us out streaming anytime on Google Plus and YouTube. Just search for In the Spotlight 411, and you'll have access to producing shows on Google Plus and YouTube, and that of course started way back in mid-October of 2015. So every episode from mid-October 2015 all the way up until tonight's episode is available for you to stream anytime here on Google Plus and YouTube. Again, just search for In the Spotlight 411, and you can stream those episodes anytime you wish. If you're interested in, maybe you're not interested in streaming, maybe you don't like seeing us on screen, maybe you want to listen to us on the go, maybe you're interested in older episodes of our show, if any of that applies to you, feel free to check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on those sites. And when you do, you'll have access to every episode we've done in the nearly 7 years we've been doing the show. It's every episode from our original Blog Talk Radio one from October 2010 through January 2011. Everything from our Talk Shoe run from January 2011 all the way up until mid-October of 2015. And, of course, all of our Google Plus and YouTube episodes from mid-October 2015 all the way up until tonight's episode. All those episodes transfer into audio format for your convenience. All those episodes available on both sites, home pages for our show. On both, that was a horrible way to explain it. I apologize. All those episodes available on our site pages on both sites. Our pages on both sites, or home pages on both sites. That makes more sense. Home pages on both sites, folks. That's what I'm trying to say. It's been a long 2 weeks. Just give me a break. But on our show pages on both sites, you have access to every episode we've done over the nearly 7 years we've been doing the show. They're all in order from most recent to the oldest. Just click on the episode you want, and you can play it anytime you want. Listen to us on the go. Might be a long-time fan wants to check out an episode from 2 years ago, or a new fan wants to check out an episode like that for the first time, or you want to keep up a current episode, miss the part of an episode, miss an episode entirely. If any of that applies to you, you can check us out again on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. To search for In the Spotlight 411, and you can do all that and more. So Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes. Always keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. Again, Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, and iTunes. All your ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. Again, search for In the Spotlight 411. I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike. I want to thank myself and our great show, pat myself on my back, and thank all of you for your continued support and your contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. To those that will be watching or listening to this later, thank you to you as well. It's good to be back. A little rusty. I stumbled on myself at the end there, but, all in all, not too bad. We got through everything again. Another busy show on Thursday. We've got some stuff to catch up on the entertainment side of things. We'll have some TV highlights, some entertainment news, box office beat. We got 2 weeks worth of box office stuff to look through. All that coming up on Thursday. And then we'll have 2 shows next week. And then before the end of the month, we'll probably drop down to 1 show a week for the rest of the summer. With maybe like an exception here and there. But I'll talk more about that as we get closer to that date. So stay tuned for more information on that. So that's it. It's good to be back. Hope you all had I didn't say it at the top of the show. I forgot to say it, but I hope you had a great holiday weekend and enjoyed your last couple weeks here. So we're back, and hopefully we have some good. Like I said at the beginning of the show, we have some good stuff coming up. NBA draft preview, the beginning of the TV awards process, all that coming up over the next couple weeks. So stay tuned for all that as well. All right, so that's it for tonight. I hope you all have a great rest of your night, a great Wednesday, and a great Thursday. We'll see you back here for our next show this Thursday, June the 8th, 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Until then, Have a good night, everybody.